All right, so a lot of times working with percents can be confusing on the GMAT because you don't get to use a calculator or Microsoft Excel. So we need to get used to using fractions instead of percentages to do the math that's required on this test. Because fractions are much easier to work with, they will cancel out versus the factors of other things that you're multiplying them by and stuff like that. And so if I was asked for a 25% increase on something, I don't think of that as being 25%. I think of that as being 5/4 times my original value, because 1/4 is equal to 25%. And if I'm increasing by 25%, I will be left with a total of 5/4, the original 4/4 of my number, or 100%, plus an additional fourth, which will get me 5/4. So 5/4 is actually equal to 125%. And this is how I like to think of multiplication with fractions when I'm doing percent change. Focus on the total number that you're going to end with, not on the change itself. So if I said, for example, what is a 25% increase on 120? Well, 5/4 times 120, or what is the result of a 25% change on 120? 5/4 on 120 is pretty easy to work with because 120 is a multiple of 4, which means I can cross cancel these. I'm left with 30, and 5 times 30 gives me 150. So 25% increase from 120 is equal to a total of 150. Now a negative 30% change is the same idea, but it looks slightly different. So if I lose 30%, I'm left with 70% of my initial value. And so I would have 70 over 100 times x if x represents the original, which is equal to 7/10 of x. So if I was asked, what is 70% of, let's see, 70% of 210? Well, it's 7/10 of 210. And we can cross out the 0 there, and then I get 7 times 21, and that is going to be equal to 7 times 20 plus 7 times 1, which is equal to 140 plus 7, which means 147. So 70% of 210 is equal to 147, and you can see why working with fractions is going to be easier than working with percentages when you're trying to do the math like this, because it allows you to cross cancel stuff, and the GMAT will give you easy numbers to cross cancel with. Finally, I want to talk about a plus 200% increase. So if you have a plus 100% increase, if you started with $10, you would increase by 100%, which is plus another $10, which would get you to $20. If you're increasing by 200%, you're increasing from 10 plus 200% of 10, which is 200 over 100 times the $10. And sorry for my misplaced dollar sign there, but 200 over 100 times 10. And if we cross cancel these zeros out, we get 2 over 1 times 10, which means we have 10 plus 20 for a total of 30. So just remember, a 100% increase means you double your number. A 200% increase actually means you triple your number. So sometimes that can be a little confusing as well, but if you see a number has tripled, that means the number has increased by 200%. And so anytime you have a change, if a number went up from x to 7x, this would be plus 600%. It's basically going to be this multiplier minus 1 times 100. And so that's just one last thing to think about when you're representing percent change as fractions. And again, thinking about the total that we end up with as being the original value plus the percent change.